Today we take a look at 10 punk rock musicians who've had near-death experiences. Let's check it. Well, some musicians have had untimely deaths, such as the Rev from Avenged Sevenfold and Chester Bennington from Linkin Park. And other rock stars even joined in the ranks of the 27 Club, a club of stars that have died at the age of 27, which includes the likes of Jimi Hendrix, Janis Joplin, Kurt Cobain, and there's a ton more. But today we're taking a look at some musicians who had a date with death, but never really picked up the bill and ditched out halfway through. So without further ado, let's get into it. First up is Saves the Day. While on tour in March of 2000, the band got into a van accident that almost ended their entire career. While most of the band just walked away with some cuts, scrapes, and bruises, David Soloway had the worst off, receiving a broken nose and losing most of his teeth. They kind of brushed this off, canceled most of the tour, but came back to the recording studio, and that van accident was the inspiration for their 2001 album, Stay What You Are. It was like a holy shit come to Jesus moment. A vocalist, Chris Conley, said that while writing he felt really confident and had a lot more fun while writing. Next up is Cheap Sex. Johnny O Negative of the street punk band Cheap Sex was on tour with Lower Class Brats in 2003. They were driving in a van to New York, and the band suffered an accident, which caused their trailer to sideswipe their van and hit a truck that was loaded with cinder blocks to unload all over the road. The cinder blocks took the door off the van, and some of them flew right through the windshield. One of the bricks severely injured Johnny O and severed his aorta. This caused the cancellation of the rest of the tour. Despite the incident, Johnny survived, but left the band to recover for his injury. He later wrote the song Lucky to Be Alive for the band Cheap Sex. During the 2009 South by Southwest acoustic performance by Fat Mike of NoFX's alter ego Cokie the Clown, you know the Piste Resistance thing that happened there? If you don't know what that is, just look it up, or maybe I'll link it up below, the Piste Resistance. He was telling stories in between songs, as NoFX usually does. But these ones were way darker and more messed up than any NoFX story. On one of his first stories, he goes, "Has anyone witnessed a rape and didn't do anything about it?" In 1984, Melvin and I were in LA, where the punk scene was pretty violent. We went and saw the Vandals in a band called Circle One. With the band, there was a gang called The Family, who used to paint their faces completely black at each show, probably about 30 or 40 guys who looked like this. So as me and Melvin were waiting outside of the show in the stairwell, and two of these guys with face paint come down the stairs, and one of them is carrying a girl who's kicking and screaming. She grabs onto Eric, looks him in the face, and says, "Help me." And one of the guy turns to Eric, grabs him and says, "You didn't see a fucking thing." So we didn't know what to do, because a lot of these guys were around us, had weapons, it could probably kick our ass. So we went upstairs and watched the Vandals play, as this girl was presumably getting raped below us in the basement. Now this really isn't a near-death experience, but things could have turned really sour for them. It just sucks that who knows what happened to that girl. I've got to put this band in here because I kind of consider them punk rock, given they have Dave Grohl as a drummer, man. Yes, I'm talking about Queen of the Stone Age. No, not Tenacious D, but I also give them credit as well. But I don't think they've ever had any near-death experiences. Digressing. During a routine knee operation in 2010, Queen of the Stone Age lead singer Josh Homme suffered complications due to his anesthesia. He was declared dead on the operating table. He quotes, "I woke up and there was a doctor going, 'Shit, we lost you. I couldn't get up for months. When I did, I hadn't got a clue what the hell was going on.'" That's pretty insane. The band went on to write songs like No One Knows, Hideaway, Smooth Sailing, and Little Sister, all with Grammy nominations for Best Rock Performance and Best Rock Album in 2014 and 2018. Man, if he wouldn't have woke up from anesthesia, that would have never happened. The end of 2014 was kind of a bad time for Celtic punk rock band Dropkick Murphys. Al Barr received word that a childhood friend had passed away and he had to fly home and was unable to make their next show in Oklahoma. But to add to that, they were in a bus accident, which ended up killing somebody. They were on their way to Tulsa when a pedestrian had run in front of the street and their bus had run him over. The Boston Globe later identified him as a 23-year-old man, adding that the accident just happened just north of Austin on Interstate 35. Dropkick Murphys then posted about their show cancellations, condolences, and with a request to their fans to keep the family of the man in their prayers. The family returned their sentiment to all of the band members and the bus driver. This wasn't so much a near-death experience on their part, but had the bus driver swerved, things could have went pretty bad if the bus would have toppled over or went into another lane. En route to Salt Lake City on November 2nd, 2005, for a performance for Victory Records' Never Sleep Again tour, Bayside's van hit a patch of ice outside of Cheyenne, Wyoming, and drummer John Houlihan was killed. According to the band's official website, Bayside's bassist Nick also suffered serious injuries, as were members of their crew. Singer Anthony and guitarist Jack were released from the hospital pretty much immediately. The show in Salt Lake City was canceled, which also included their label mates, 80 Silverstein, and Hawthorne Heights. The next upcoming 4 shows were canceled as well. For the remaining days of the tour, members of other bands came together to sell Bayside merch and play songs to raise money for the John Houlihan Bayside Memorial Fund. On the night of September 19th, 2008, a Learjet 60 business jet crashed during takeoff from Columbia Metropolitan Airport in South Carolina. The aircraft overran the runway end, crashed through the airport boundary vents, crossed South Carolina Highway 302, and came to a rest on an embankment, which burst into flames. 4 of the 6 people died in the crash. The only survivors were Travis Barker and DJ AM, but they were both critically injured. Barker and AM escaped the flames, but told first responders that there were other people still trapped on board. Both suffered 2nd and 3rd degree burns on most of their body. It took a ton of surgeries and skin grafts for Travis just to get back to where he is today. He was in the hospital for months after this. And even when he got back to performing, you can still see where there were burns from the plane crash. If that wasn't enough, in 2018, Travis Barker came close to death again when he directly collided with a school bus in Calabasas, California. He was making a left turn when the bus, who was also in the midst of his turn, hit his vehicle. Luckily, the school bus was empty at the time, and the bus driver didn't get hurt as well. Travis went on to say, "My car was totaled, but I pretty much walked away okay, which is awesome. A school bus ran a red light. It was insane. I have a really big 4x4 G-Wagon, and if it wasn't in that, it might have been different, but it held up pretty well." Best known for his band Dead Boys and Lord of the New Church, Stiv Bators ran into a near-death experience after being a lifelong devotee of Iggy Pop. Bators used to watch Iggy Pop cut himself and do crazy stuff on stage, and one of Iggy Pop's old stunts used to be him hanging himself on stage, so Bators thought, I could do that too. He had a fearless reputation in the Dead Boys, and continues such antics in the Lords. The stunt went completely wrong, and he was actually pronounced clinically dead for several minutes. Nonetheless, Bader survived, and the Lords went on to record a few records after that. He tragically died on June 4th, 1990, after being struck by a car. The blow from the car didn't kill him, as he was rushed to the hospital and then was sent home, being cleared by doctors. He died later that night from brain trauma caused by the accident. In 2015, the Ghost Inside was on their way from a gig in Texas to Phoenix when they were involved in a catastrophic accident. They were just outside El Paso when a truck hit their tour bus head on. At first, details were kind of sketchy. There were reports that the driver of the tour bus and one other person had been killed, and drummer Andrew Tkachuk had been seriously injured. In the aftermath, his brother Nick said that he suffered broken bones, serious head trauma, and a shoulder injury. It later went on that Andrew actually had spent 10 days in a coma and had to get his leg amputated. It wasn't until 2018 that it was reported that Andrew was going to play again. He had been fitted with a prosthetic, and his dad actually helped build a drum set that was adapted for his missing leg. They practiced their ass off, and in July 2019, the band did come back and finally play a show. Sum 41's album, Does This Look Infected, had commercial success, which caused them to tour pretty much all over the world at the time. In mid-2004, the band took a break from touring and filmed a documentary for World Child Canada in the Congo. The film was called Rocked, Sum 41, in the Congo, and was released in 2005 by MTV. However, fighting broke out during filming while the band was staying in the hotel. Drummer at the time, Steve-O, said, "The shooting was all around, and all these people were waiting probably to die. 2 UN people arrived at the scene and gave a speech about how everything would be fine. And then after they left, things just went crazy." Derek Whibley mentioned that the day that the UN gave the update about their safety, that they would be able to evacuate. The band woke up the next day, however, to gunshots at 5 a.m. Dave Browntown said, "We went to the hotel's restaurant and got some breakfast when the gunfire just got closer to us." At that time, a UN peacekeeper named Charles Chuck Pelletier instructed the residents of the hotel to leave the restaurant. Whibley recalls, "We just went back to his room, where there was around 43 other people there. We were all hiding in the bathroom and hiding on the floor. The UN peacekeeper Chuck was armed with a club. A new club. We knew it was a new club because the price tag was still on it. But they were armed with guns." Chuck then called for armored carriers to take the hotel residents out of the hot zone. Whibley added, "But then I just kept thinking about everything we had done so far as a band, and everything I've done so far as a person, and I thought, this is it. This is how we're gonna die." After nearly 6 hours, carriers finally arrived, and the band, alongside 40 other civilians, were finally taken to safety. In honor of Chuck Pelletier, the band decided to name their next album Chuck, which is where the name came from. On their way to a video shoot for the Grand Theft Auto, yeah, this is how old this is, in 2004, Fall Out Boy wrecked their van, not tour bus, just outside of Limmer, PA, which is like a few hours from me. The band shared a video about this online, and it's actually where the album From Under the Cork Tree came from. And if you look in the accompanying album art, there's actually a van in a snow embankment. Didn't know that until I looked this up. But it's crazy. From the video, the van is entirely trashed. There's stuff all over the place, and they kind of hang out at Denny's and take a police statement. It's crazy to see those guys from 2004 to that. That's that. Hope you guys liked the video. I mean, some of it was really sad, and I couldn't imagine going through half of that. A lot of van accidents. It's crazy. Musicians get that stigma as just being guys that play music for an hour, but there's a lot of other elements involved, including the Mother Nature elements. So let me know if there's anybody I missed down in the comments below. Let me know if you've had any near-death experiences that were similar to that, or even crazier. And with that, let's just roll the outro. Hey guys, now that we're at the end of the video, thank you for commenting, and subscribing. You can check out daily blogs on thepoppunkdad.com, which features daily reviews and interviews from awesome bands. Head on over to the Pop Punk Dad official merch shop, where you can buy cool things like that right there. It helps the channel out and lets me know that you love me. I have a weekly podcast called the Pop Punk Dadcast, which is on SoundCloud and iTunes now. Please subscribe. While you're at it, cruise around and check out other content on this channel. You can check out all my social medias, my IG, my FB, and my Twitter, at the Pop Punk Dad. And above all else, guys, stay pop punk. Later.